fantasy, baseball, statistics. That's what we're going to do here today. Just coming in hot. Feel like we have to talk about some young upside, some more helium, some more bats that we're seeing rise up through the preseason. Then we'll go through some more later round targets that we need to push up. But let me just jump right into this. There's some really key news pressing right here. So while I have your attention, his name is Bobby Witt Jr. Pulling him up really quickly here. Bobby Witt Jr. for the Kansas City Royals. The situation is getting out of hand with the hype in the preseason, and this is somebody relatively unknown. I want to swing into the profile. The four names I'm going to discuss at first: Bobby Witt Jr., Andrew Vaughn, Wander Franco, and Jared Kelenic. But here we go. Bobby Witt Jr. What's happening here? The first thing that I like when I see a Bobby Witt Jr. is that his dad, Bobby Witt, also was an MLB player, so you know the kind of level of competition that was happening in the backyard as he was growing up. So this kid is getting rave reviews as potentially one of the best players people have seen ever. You know, that he might get a gig here and might break camp. They're using him in the outfield now. He continues to hit. Bobby Witt Jr., 20 years old, 6'1", 190. The scouting report says a 45 hit tool future with 60 power, 65 raw power, 60 speed, with 60 field for a 60 future value. So it's just straight up 60s. They're not sure about the contact out of the gates, but then again, he is only 20 years old. He has just not even played any baseball. Here's a Bobby Witt Jr. who has only played rookie ball, literally 37 games of rookie ball. May break spring training with the team to be a Kansas City Royal, where they're going to turn him loose to run, where he has power. Depending on the number of games that he gets, we're talking 2020 to outrageous statement 30-30 upside from a Bobby Witt Jr. So this is somebody you can't ignore, you can't forget. I'm gonna put him in probably the stashable category. I'm not sure exactly what he's gonna be going for. It depends on how awake your draft room is. If they're paying for him, if they're gonna treat him like a $10 player, $5 player, he's gonna be somebody living late who's gonna need a little bit of juice for you to get him. If guys are awake, and that window's going to close. If there's a lot of talk from the manager that Bobby, I don't know, we're not going to rule out if he's going to come up or not. That's serious talk from a guy who's only played rookie ball, except for playing with the dad in the backyard, which sounds like it was probably pro ball for him to have this level of skill at just 20 years old. So Bobby Witt Jr., a stash, someone to pay for, because, you know, the way we were all focused and then Juan Soto kind of crept up on us. Witt Jr. may have that kind of emergence here. So we got to talk about that. We're just doing some upside here. And Andrew Vaughn, what's happening here? 22-year-old Andrew Vaughn, 6 feet, 215, 70 hit tool. Right now, 55 hit tool. Future, 70 hit tool. That means a lot of contact with 60 game power upside, 60 raw power upside for a future value of 60. Again, a guy who has not played much baseball. He has made it up to A ball. He mashed through rookie A plus. So, but what we're seeing happening is there's a chance that Andrew Vaughn breaks camp with the White Sox and is going to be part of the collateral damage. And if he's making contact in a lineup that's loaded with players, loaded with RBI opportunity, Andrew Vaughn looks like it's a potential to be a stud, if not a breakout sleeper, somebody who you're probably safe to draft right out of the gates this year if he's going to start. And then I think I just heard news that an Adam Engel, who is not going to get the job done in the outfield for the White Sox, got injured and is going to miss time, which almost locks in Andrew Vaughn to get a look here out of camp, because the White Sox need him. They need him now. They need a bat in the offense to continue to drive in runs. The White Sox want to make it into the playoffs. They want to make a splash this season, and they know that Andrew Vaughn is that guy. The other thing is we've seen a propensity from the White Sox to bring up young players. They signed Eloy and he broke camp. We didn't wait for Super 2 for some of that service time manipulation. And that's the only reason some of these rookies that I'm about to mention will get held down is for service time manipulation so they can get the extra year out of them. But the White Sox have foregone that process previously that we saw with Eloy and Tatis. Even Robert accelerated path to the big. So we're looking for the same thing to happen here with Andrew Vaughn. Another Bobby, not Bobby Witt Jr., but a Bobby Dalbec. Bobby Dalbec of the Red Sox, 6'4", 25 years old, playing first B. The hit tool, 30 future. That's probably because there's some swing and miss. Game power, 55. Raw power, 70 for a 45 future value. And he's flashing pop. He's obviously a big boy at 6'4", 225. So you got to keep in mind a Bobby Dalbec as you're getting late into draft, somebody to plug into a utility spot. I think you might be living on the edge to start a Bobby Dalbec, but you definitely have to keep him on your radar and push him up on draft. Save a little money, save a bench spot. Obviously, in any sort of keeper or dynasty, these guys are going to all be going at a premium, but those kinds of leagues typically are more aware of sleepers and prospects. So, of course, we got to talk about Wander Franco. So, Wander Franco is being talked about in that class of Acuna, the pedigree being above Acuna level. So, if he is held down by the very cost-conscious Tampa Bay Rays to manipulate his service time, we should see a Wander Franco eventually. Just listen to this scouting report. It's a 60 hit tool now with a future 80, a future game power of 60, a raw power 55, a speed of a 60 with the 55 field, and they gave him an 80 future value. So the talent on Wander Franco is ridiculous. And if you're in the business of stashing guys out of the draft, of just drafting them and waiting the 2 weeks, waiting 6 weeks, maybe waiting till the middle of the summer, so before the call-ups, or for there to be a need, or for somebody to just really mash their way out of AAA, that's Wander Franco this season. Absolutely absurd. Again, he's only made it to single A. He's walking more than he strikes out at every level. The WRC pluses are no lower than a 157 with speed and power and bat to ball. So I am outrageously high on a Wander Franco. If I am going to even have a bench bat, might as well just let it be Wander. And obviously, the whiff of a call-up, this is a run. Don't walk to the waiver wire to slam him onto your team. I think that the need to have Wander is more than we had in previous seasons when we were stashing Vlad, when we were stashing Ronald, even though that was a very important season. So continue to stash Wander and be very high there. I just got to drop in one more name here is a Jarred Kelenic. Jarred Kelenic, 6'1", 190 for the Seattle Mariners. Let's review the scouting report. Future 60 hit tool, 60 game power, 60 raw power. The speed is a 50 now, but it'll slow down for a 60 future value player. He's been stealing a little bit of bases. We've seen 11, 10 in the minors. They haven't projected somewhere between 9 and 8. So we do think we're going to see a Kelenic come up here at some point. Another run, don't walk to the waiver kind of guy, kind of upside and pedigree. Have to keep him on your radar. And then I've lined up some players because I want to get your targets right. And if you are doing some sort of AL only, NL only, I believe I'm going in order here. Let me see which side I did first. I did the American League first, and then I moved through the NL. Just a little bit of news. We're getting some word that MLB is going to dampen the game down with a little bit of a home run suppression ball, which would make some sense because we had that spike and exit velo last season. Maybe the ball was a little rubbery, giving it a little bit more bounce, and they thought that's dangerous. That might be dangerous for player safety, so they might deaden it a little bit. It just means we're going to see something funny happen to power. Hopefully they don't overdo it and make it very hard to hit home runs. They're going to have to try to find some sort of middle ground, but just expect some wrinkles. That's why when I draft power, I want really true power. I don't want to overestimate guys that are 14 to 20 home run power, and then because that's not even going to play this year. You're going to need big grown man power to get the ball out this season. The other thing that we're dealing with is just rumors of a potential DH in the NL that would really change lineups and change opportunities for multiple teams. Just something to keep in the back of your head. Before I get into players, I just want to try this. I've got RotoWire Fantasy Baseball. This was Talking NFBC with Vlad Sedler. And I just found this so comedic. I wish I could have joined in with the conversation. So I'm just going to fire up this pod real quick. And I just want to, just bear with me while I join in with these guys because it was just so amusing.
A lot of times value fell. Like, for example, this year, if I thought somebody like Christian Yelich, where back in January he was going around 14, 15, 2 months ago, now he's in the top 10. If I figured he might be available, that would be a good opportunity to draft from the ends. But as of now, I don't.
These guys are discussing where they want to draft, what position they want to be in. Obviously, I would want to be in the top 4, top 5, where all the elite talent is. But they're talking about the cusp, and they're very high in Yelich. I mean, we know Yelich, the past track record is great. But he's 29 or 30. He suffered a bad injury, which I keep bringing up, the kneecap. But they just have decided that that's over. The old Yelich is coming back. Don't worry about it. They're all in.
I think I'm kind of digging the middle range.
Right, but you just
dig in the middle range.
You're willing to pay up for it, a couple $100. Well, you can't actually say. You might be willing to pay for it.
This is the difference. This is the difference. He's talking about you can't really say because what's happening in the industry of the podcast, it's the same guys. It's the same 15 guys in every single league, in the NFBC leagues, in their friends and family leagues, CBS, blah, blah, blah. All the leagues, it's the same guys. So what you have to know is that they don't really want to tell you all their picks and all their players because they're competing with each other. They might be listening to each other's pods. And so they kind of allude to like, oh, wait, you can't tell me your strategy because you're planning for this big thing. See, I don't have that with you. That's why I give you the recipe, the secret sauce, all of my players, all of my upside, every number that I looked at, because I don't need to hide the ball from you the way that these guys are hiding the ball from each other. And they'll allude to that a little bit more here. But there's one part that I just loved here.
Well, Matt and I are still we haven't gotten that far down the road. We're kind of paring down our player pool, but by that time, I think we'll probably have a good idea, kind of what our limits are as far as what we would bid on. But hey,
paring down our player pool. This is important, and if I have some time at the end, I might do this. Paring down our player pool, that's them jointly deciding who they're willing to draft. And as much as I talk about who I'm willing to draft, and my sheet does probably contain all of the major players in the MLB, some of them pushed down, there are players that do not touch. The key to my seasons, beyond drafting the right guys, the right young upside that's going to progress each season, is not touching certain guys, not even considering them. There's guys I will not touch. I will tell you, Sonny Gray, I will not touch. And I'll hear different people, they want to talk about that. Hendricks with low Ks, I'm not touching Hendricks. So there's certain guys that I understand they have value for certain leagues, but developing your no way, no how list is a little bit of tailoring down your player pool.
You know how it is, true G's, we could draft from any spot, but if we could have some influence on that and pay a little bit of money where it won't affect too much, then it could be worth it.
Yeah, drafting from any spot where they still consider taking pitching in the first round, which is an absolute no way for me, as well as targeting Yelich.
Yeah, I'm big on Yelich too this year. I just took him in one of my outlines. I took him over Trout, which I'm not sure that was the right call, but it was a 50-50, and I went with the steals, but we'll see how that pans out.
I mean, I don't know. That I would say, can we go back? I mean, you took Yelich over Trout? What? And then you went with the steals, the 23 steals? I mean, at that level of pick, like, did you have an option at Tatis or Acuna? If you're going to talk about steals? Ah.
All right, well, let's talk specifics because, like, for me, like, I have sort of a way I do this, and I'm not sure it's the right way, but I feel like I keep learning each year, sort of.
Year after year, keep learning each year. I agree. I agree with him here. I'm in line.
Oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, and I feel like I've refined it. Like I've knocked out
I shouldn't have took pitching early. I shouldn't have.
a couple bad habits. I think one is I don't care about ADP anymore. I mean, I care about it.
There it is. There it is. There it is. There's the secret sauce. Year after year after year, you finally realize that I don't care about ADP anymore. Correct. And now this conversation is going to go into jumping and ADP. What does it mean to you? What does it not? You really have to develop. Where do we?
I don't want to take a guy in the third that is going to be there in the fifth, but that's the only thing I care about.
That's the only thing you can do in Snake. The reason to do a salary cap draft is to be able to craft ridiculous teams that you love. If you're in a Snake, the only thing you can do is play some sort of what they're calling ADP chicken on who you're going to take. He's going in the 5th round, says Gentleman's ADP, but you're going to take him in 3 because you're some sort of a cowboy now? A Snake cowboy?
Just jumping guys left and right. As long as I think this is the best player, the player I want, I'm not really going to play a lot of ADP chicken and say, well, if I get this other guy, hopefully this guy will come back. And then I see 3 picks before me, someone takes him, and then I say, you can console yourself and say that was a good play because I had a chance to get both of them. In the 4th round of the online, I took Vlad Guerrero in round 4, like early round 4.
Good pick. You're not that crazy. That's not that crazy to me. You took Vlad early round 4. I have Vlad in my top 20, but if you okay, let's go.
The 6th pick in round 4. And he might have come back to me in round 5, but I was just like, this is the guy I want. There'll be someone in round 5 I want. I'm just going to take him. And I think like that's it. I'm totally done. Unless it's like so remote that he would not be back, I'm just taking the guy where I see him slotting in.
And I love this. He is totally done with ADP. So you have to make your own list, and then you have to implement it and draft from it, and ignore ADP is meaningless. So now he's going to ask his boy, now what do you think? Are you done with ADP? And he can't quite.
Yeah, and actually, and just to go back to one point you had made earlier about the differences with these overall competitions, like, I mean, you and I have been in drafts and competed against each other for many years, and there is that adjustment for drafting guys for more upside. The perfect example is over the years, somebody like Kyle Seager is not as well suited for an overall competition. Just pretty much.
I will never touch Kyle Seager. I will never touch him. Meanwhile, Corey Seager is blasting home runs this preseason, remain very high there.
What you're going to get, pretty like boring numbers, and doesn't really have that upside. And I've noticed that both you and I, we've been up there. I've seen you quite often, especially the first half of the season. Like, you're up there in the overall competitions with certain teams because you really have that boom or bust approach. Like, for me, I don't really have many teams that end up middle of the road in the standings. Like 2 years ago in the main event, I had 2 teams. One finished first, the other finished 14th. And it's really that kind of, go for the gusto approach that's a little bit different here.
I agree with that. That's why I was talking about backing up your young upside with more young upside, because we're trying to win the whole league, not just make it to the playoffs.
Well, obviously you got to do that because it's asymmetric, right? Like, if you have 1st and 14th, and then you have 5th and 7th, it's like, which is better? Well, 1st and 14th is way better. It's infinitely better because 5th and 7th gets you 0. So it's asymmetrical, and especially for the overall. I mean, there's 11, 12 spots pay in the overall. That's it.
It's just the NFBC obsession. I have to bear with, so I'm just going to make you guys. There's one more little comment.
And so really, that's all you got. Now, I remember when you were Lindy Hinkleman, you interviewed, and I want to talk about your article in a bit. But He one time took Adam Jones in the first round, like 8, and I hated Adam Jones. I was like, this is just such 30 home. It was when offense was down. To be fair, it was like 2012 or something. It's like
Adam was good for a little while.
30 home runs, 100 RBIs, 90 runs, 290, 8 steals. I was like, that's a horrible first round pick. But this is a guy that won it twice and won the overall and the thing in the same year. So. And he was a 15 team, and he was just built. He was, it was a building block. It was a guy who was not going to hurt him, who was going to get him enough and not kill him in the first round. And I do think that that's something I've learned also is usually I won't do that in the first, although the first and second round are more about floor. But
and then you wipe it all away, and now you're saying the first and second round are about floor. I mean, stick to your guns. I don't know if this is Vlad or the other. Stick to your guns, Vlad. It's about floor.
Rounds 5 and 6 in the 15, and 4 through, or I guess 7, 8, 9 in the 12. It was always a tough round for me because I wouldn't like anybody. I'd be like, all these guys are no better than the guys I'll get 2 rounds from now, and I would take a closer because of that, or take a catcher.
Well, I hope you're learning that lesson.
And just kind of punt on the decision to take that building block. And I realized it's okay. Just take your Eugenio Suarez or whoever it is. Because that, especially in the 15 team, that 30 and 90 and 260 is.
And then 15 team, I don't know. I mean, I'm in 10, 12. I'm going to mostly be in 12s. I mean, 15 team, it's going to thin out. And if you're in Snake, the droughts are ridiculous in 15 team. There's going to be nobody left in that draft.
Good. That's good. It's going to help your team. And don't be so upside focused that you're like, what's 30, 90, 260 going to do for me? In the 12, okay, I think it's okay to think that way, but in the 15, just take the block. Build that block. And that was another sort of hole that I had to plug up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's in the same vein of how we build for category balance or position balance as we draft. It's the same thing with the balance between upside and stability. And I think a lot of people sharp folks are taking the approach of those first couple of rounds, just give me my floor, give me the nice solid guys. A lot of people are avoiding the Mondesi or the Luis Robert types.
Mistake. That's a mistake. Don't avoid the Mondesi and the Robert type. People are avoiding the Robert type.
And just settling for a LeMahieu or an Ozzie Albies, you pretty.
LeMahieu. I mean, come on, got RotoWire Fantasy Baseball. Pass on Robert and get LeMahieu because you want average, you want one category. I mean, it's just so. And we were on the right path. Upside.
Much know what you're going to get out of those guys so long as they're healthy, and then you balance it out as you go, right? Maybe later on down the line you could go for some of those upside guys. And the same thing as you're building your pitching staff. It's also that balance between guys that were.
I can't take it anymore. It just, I'm not balancing it. That's the other part is I'm not balancing it with regular guys. Those are going to be your scrubs again. If you keep trying to put regular guys on your team, continue to put studs on your team. They go into something else here about tell me who your players are or don't. Another little cat and mouse, can you tell me? Oh, you can't. Oh, you got to keep it a secret. That's not helpful. I'm coming to you for fantasy baseball information. I want to know all the players, why you're doing it, the metrics, how to find them myself. And these guys, they kind of just admit to having to hide the ball while they talk about each other's teams in 15 league NFBC. It is just maddening. Just letting me get that off my chest. So let me move through the players. If you're going to keep going for upside, if you're going to keep looking for guys to kind of surprise this season and you want to be a little bit deeper, I've got a host of guys here that we're going to slide through. I've dabbled in their profiles, but I'm going to kind of give them a fresh look so that we can just do the analysis of these players together. And I went in order more so by team than by talent. So I'll mark the guys I'm really high on. But we have a Nate Lowe for the Texas Rangers, 25 years old, 6'4", 45 future value prospect with 55 hit, 60 power, 65 raw power. So we like all those things. Nate looked good on his call-ups. Then Tampa Bay shipped him out. Now he's going over to Texas, a nice hitting environment. I think there's power in Nate's game. Yeah, 2020 was ugly. He was strikeout prone. 36% strikeout is terrible. But the hard hit is a 43%. The launch angle flattened out was bad. He had a bad season. I mean, when your exit velocity goes from 91 to 89, you want to think that something was kind of missing in the approach. I just want to check the plate discipline to see how poor. I mean, we're looking at two different players in 2019, a 30 O swing with an 89 zone contact. This could be a future stud. He becomes a 26 O swing with only 79 zone contact. But let's mention the swinging strike stayed right at 10%. So there's going to be some hits. So I think a Nate Lowe could surprise in a Texas lineup where he's finally getting some opportunity. We're going to talk about 22-year-old Andres Gimenez for the Cleveland Indians, 5'11", 161, pretty small. I'm really just throwing him in here for a 55 hit tool, some contact. There's no power on 40 game power, 45 raw power, but he's currently got 60 speed, and we're seeing the guy projected to maybe even squeeze 10 home runs out, so it isn't nothing. It isn't Billy Hamilton, but 20 to 26 stolen bases. He's won the starting job. He's pushed Ahmed Rosario just off of the infield altogether, so he's going to be getting the opportunity to run. He could surprise with 30 bases. We know there's no hard hit. The launch angle's a 13. That's all he has going for him. Occasionally one of those could go out. The plate discipline, 86 zone contact, only 11 for a swinging strike. So he should be on base. And because that Cleveland team is so poor, he should be trying to set up runs. And just another thing I heard on Jose Ramirez that, like, his team situation concerns you a little. It should concern you a lot that he's the only guy on the field. I found another Willie Castro for the Detroit Tigers, 6'1", 205. Could be playing second or short. Nothing spectacular here in the profile. 45 hit, 45 power, game power, a little bit of speed, 55 speed, 45 future value. Just getting a starting nod. He had an outrageous BABIP to start the year last season. You know, I think I'm just seeing something in the preseason that roster resource elevated Willie Castro up into the starting lineup, so he should break camp and get a look here at just 23. Want to mention him, but I'm not going crazy there. Spencer Torkelson of the Detroit Tigers, another Tiger here, 6'1", 220, 60 future value prospect. Here we see a 60 hit tool, 65 game power, 70 raw power with no speed. So Torkelson is a stud. Has he hit? He doesn't even have minor league numbers up. Very limited minor league at bats. Struggling a little bit in the preseason, but should be a masher. He's a run don't walk to the waivers when he comes up, or if he breaks camp, it's still questionable. Had to get his name in there. Miles Straw of the Houston Astros, 26 years old, 5'10", so he's fairly small. The profile, 55 hit is decent, no power, but 70 speed. He can field a little bit for a 40 future value. I think Miles might be playing center field for the Stros this year, and we're seeing projection for 27 to maybe 35 stolen bases. And again, with there being no speed, that is a lot of bases from a late Miles Straw, 26 years old. You don't want to forget about him. But here's the man right here that I want to remain high on. I think you got to forgive him for the speed bumps and push him up outrageously high. I'm going to do it right here on my sheet because of how well it's going for him. It's Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani. I mean, the scouting report was only a 40 hit. This is the hitting side of Ohtani. 55 game power, 70 raw power, 60 speed for a 70 future value. Shohei Ohtani is a baseball prodigy with power and speed. No matter what happens with how they use him at DH, with starts, he's over the Tommy John. He's back. He's 26 years old. The numbers, they have him projected at 21 and only 14 bases. I think that's outrageously low. I think that Shohei Ohtani could enter into that upper crust of like superstar players. I expect serious fireworks from him. So and we're seeing it a little bit in spring. If you want the pitcher side, he's touching 100. You want the hitter side, he's mashing bombs. However you can get your Ohtani, get in there and get some of that action. I'm extremely high there. A Minnesota Twin who I see maybe breaking camp. I like prototype size. 6'2", 195, 23 years old. We have a 60 future value player. 60 hit, 60 power, 60 raw power. No speed coming. Projected for basically nothing. But Alex Kirilloff has an advanced approach at the bat. He has power. It looks like he could break camp with the Minnesota Twins, which would make his value even more outrageous. Minor league numbers wise, we have him up to double A. The strikeouts are tame. WRC pluses of 176, 168. He should be up fairly soon, so I'm high there. I popped a couple names on here, just some collateral damage that I think, as opposed to taking somebody who you don't want to touch whatsoever, you've gotta be able to put your eyes somewhere else. I'm just swinging through the list of guys who are just, I got to get a little deeper for guys that I'm not going to touch, but we'll see. I mean, I'm really not playing an Altuve or something. But let's see. I like a Clint Fraser. He's a 55 future value, 60 power, 60 raw power. I see Clint's path. Like they wanted to deny him. He filled in for the Yankees when they had a rash of injuries on the team, and he kind of just hung on to it. And so I think in a collateral damage standpoint of there just being so much action, so much opportunity for run, for ribby, for short porch on the other side, I think Clint Fraser could produce more than expected because there's some pop in the bat. He's just he's a player. He's a baller. We already went over Bobby Witt. That's all I was looking through. Andrew Vaughn. I'm gonna do pitching later. I pulled the closers, and we've got pitchers falling left and right. We've got Carlos Carrasco with a groin strain. We got Leclerc with a forearm strain. I think I saw Toronto's closer goes down. So those values are not going to move at the same speed, and we've got to be moving to the next pitcher because I don't want to draft injured pitchers. The road to recovery for an injured pitcher is beyond just the injury itself. It's the injury, and then they have to go stretch themselves back out, and then they have to go get a couple starts. So it's always like 4 to 8 for the injury, and then a couple more weeks to get them right. Will the timing come back? I just can't draft that health, so it's hard for me with Carrasco being down, and I'm not ready to just sit with a Severino or a Syndergaard. So I threw a pitcher in here, but I'm going to really separate closer and pitcher for another day. I want to mention a Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers with his 70 grade fastball and a 60 slider, 60 future value. Obviously, I'm high on Casey Mize as well. When I go to Skubal, I see a pitcher whose K per 9, 15, 12, 13, 10, 17, and 10 last season. A little walky. His ERA was trash last year. Maybe he had to adjust, but there's some filthy stuff. They like his fastball. It's interesting. He's got a 70 grade, but he sits 94.5, sprinkles in some other stuff. Just wanted to mention him for another late pitcher with some upside. Let's keep going through these players. So I think you at least have to mention, I'm not high here on a Seattle Mariner and Kyle Lewis, but I see a guy who slotted in to maybe hit third for the Mariners, so they're high on him. And it starts with him being 6'4", 210, 45 future value, 50 game power, 70 raw power with current 50 speed. The projections are poor, 22 home runs, not many steals. This could just be an opportunity situation. The hard hit disappeared from 2019 to 20 from 46 to 34 as guys probably figured him out or fed him more off speed. But the launch angle is okay at an 11. The plate discipline, let's see what he has here. The O swing is okay. The Z contact's not good. And he's getting pushed around with a 14.9 swinging strike. So it could be a bumpy road, but he is a guy just to at least mention. Fellow teammate Evan White, 24 years old, 6'3", got shipped out of the Houston Astros. And it's weird we see a 50 hit, 50 game power, 50 raw power, 50 future value, a little 60 speed, huh? Surprising for the 6'3", 205 player. So we're seeing at least a little bit of athleticism, projected for only mid-20s home runs. But for me, Evan White and what I saw in the metrics, I think there's a little more to Evan White's game than meets the eye. Could potentially produce for you another guy to keep your eye on late, obviously. Seattle Mariner, is he going to break camp? Taylor Tremell, 23 years old, 6'2", 213, 50 future value with a 55 hit tool. Game power only 45, raw power 55. I don't know what that means, but a 70 speed tool for Taylor Tremell, who does have prospect status. We're seeing only has made it up to AA, takes a little bit of a walk. The WRC Plus isn't great. We don't see the power yet, but I see a Zips that projected him for, okay, only 18 steals. There could be a little bit more steals. Taylor Tremell is a prospect. Let me just check out the hards and the launch. He hasn't had any pro games. I can't see the plate contact. So just another name when you're just reaching late. I won't go through the whole skill set here, but let's not forget about Emmanuel Margot for the Tampa Bay Rays. He might finally get his chance to play. 55 future value. And these are the guys that, we've known them and we forget about them because they didn't do it. And then they get moved around and now he's on a Ray and he's in the outfield. Nobody really cares. But he's 26 years old and he has a 70 speed tool. They have him projected for 10 home runs and potentially 20 bases. So Manny Margot could surprise on a Tampa Bay Rays team. I have another guy here, Leody Taveras. 6'1", 171, 22 years old, 50 hit, 70 speed. Not much pop. On the Texas Rangers, either setting the table or getting an opportunity to run. I think Taveras, with projected for between 20 and maybe even 27 steals, continuing our speed conversation, he's got to be considered. Let me just see if the plate discipline is tolerable. The Z contact only a 76, but the swinging strike is 13, so he is able to kind of, defend the plate a little bit. Probably going to get on base. MLB.com released some breakout hitters. I think if you go on to Baseball Savant and check some of their articles, they'll bump you over to MLB. They mentioned a Rowdy Tellez, who I'll look at. The reason, 6'4", 255. 55 game power, 60 raw power. He's never really done it. What's the hit like? Well, the hard hit is 44%. The launch angle is 10, is okay. Max exit velo, he's hitting it hard. It's really him just being a bopper. Being 26 years old, he might have put work in last season. A zone contact last year of 89%. The swinging strike cut from 14 to 10. So just collateral damage. While we're all looking at the studs, at the Cavins, and the Bichettes, maybe Rowdy just gets in there and gets rowdy a little bit and hits 30 home runs and really surprises with some contact. I got to mention him. Relatively unknown quantity here, Dalton Varshall, 24 years old, 5'10" for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Dalton Varshall, 55 hit, 60 speed, 50 future value somehow. 50 future value, 55 hit, 50 raw power. I don't know what we're going to get from Dalton Varshall, but he looks like he could be getting a starting gig here. 11 and 10 on limited plate appearances. But if you double the plate appearances, do you get a 20 player? Just a little bit of power speed upside. The launch angle, 18%. Very interesting. Dalton, that's a home run type launch angle with 38% hard hit. So I think that some of that power might be a little bit underestimated right now. Plate discipline, zone contact of 81. 13% swinging strike. He's holding his own a little bit. Just had to get that name in there. We all know and love this guy here, Austin Reilly for the Atlanta Braves, 6'3", 220. Got called up, went on a homer binge. People figured him out, probably stopped feeding him the cheddar, started feeding him the off speed, and he couldn't keep up with it. But he could make an adjustment. That's prototype size at 6'3", 220. 55 future value, 60 game power, 70 raw power. Are we sleeping on a projection from 24 to 29 home runs? I mean, it's crazy, but Austin Reilly could get on a little bit of a binge, could hit a couple extras out this season and potentially has 31, 35 type home run potential. Let's see the hard hit. 44%, 42%, launch angles at 20 and then 13%. That's all there. That means power. Is the plate discipline unsustainable? Wow, he went up to 83% on the zone contact, cutting a swinging strike rate from 20 to 14. Shows a guy that's learning, and if he decides to learn some more this season, this offseason, he could be a stud. Gonna keep your eye on an Austin Reilly. Fellow teammate, I just like him for the pedigree. Christian Pache. 6'2", 185, not a lot of power. Well, 55 raw power, okay, but 70 speed on this 60 future value player. But that 60 is high because they gave him an 80 field grade. That means he's going to be on the field. He stole 32 bases in single A. Offensive production isn't great, probably more of a defensive player, but I do think there's some speed there. And when you got a little bit of speed, that's going to lead you to being an accumulator. He has a negative launch angle, which is scary. That must mean that he is topping things into the ground and not making good contact. The numbers are a little bit out of whack. It seems, it's just such limited plate appearances that we don't know what he's done in the bigs, but Pache looks like he's up for the Braves. Collateral damage all day. Nico Hoerner, 23 years old, 5'11", middle infielder. 55 hit, 55 speed, 50 future value, okay. Merely an accumulator. I see nothing in the profile to get excited. Projected to go 9-9, 10-10. Could just be a contact slap hitter. No launch angle, no hard hit. Just wanted to mention him as it looks like he might break camp with the team. Let's not forget about this guy. Let's not forget about a Nick Senzelle. Nick Senzelle. Injury prone, broke our hearts as a prospect. I think I even built in a roster spot for him last year, so I was extremely high on Nick. But as we know with our prospects, we keep going back to the well. And a place to do that is with Nick Senzelle, who might not get platoon this season, who might have had some of that man strength come in at 25 years old, where he's going to stay physically prepared to deal with the grind of the MLB. Future 60 hit tool, 55 game, 55 raw with 55 speed for a 60 future value. Projected to go somewhere of 1916, 1917. It's not about talent for Nick Senzelle. It's about at-bats. So if Nick gets on the field and plays all season and slots himself in the lineup, gets his head right, I think you're looking at more of a 25-25 kind of player for a Nick Senzelle. So get back on the wagon with Nick, reaching for that late, paying a little bit for him. We got to keep going here. I got players. This is how we round out the list, and I want everyone to continue to win leagues this season, and this is where it's done with some of these targets, some of these late players to round out your team. You're expecting a little bit of a surprise, or you're caught late in a draft. This is where you want to go. Jonathan India of the Cincinnati Reds, Nick Senzelle's teammate, 24 years old, 6 feet tall, 45 future value, 60 on the hit tool. Okay. I like that he walked in Double-A 15% to 17 strikeouts. Good contact guy. Looks like he's forcing himself up into the bigs. Not a lot of speed. Good WRC plus numbers. And we don't have the hard hit yet because he hasn't made it to the bigs. But just a guy to keep in mind. A Jonathan India late if he's going to get a chance. We got to get over to the Rockies here. The Rockies, which everyone talking about being a very maddening team in terms of how they use prospects, how they pay for old players and mess with guys and throw them around. But they've got a couple interesting players, especially with a Brandon Rogers recently going down. That might open up a little bit of playing time for some other activity. And one of those guys is a Ryan Mcmahon, prototype size, 26 years old, 6'2", 208. Game power 60, raw power 60, no speed for a 50 future value. Projected to hit mid-20s home runs. A lot of swing and miss, but good exit velos. 43% hard hit. Launch angle reached a 9, which is a little flat. Is the plate discipline tolerable? 14% swinging strike. He needs to get better with contact. The 79% zone contact will be tolerable, but he might be getting the chance. The bump that Ryan McMahon gets is playing in Coors Field. That increases BABIP, more balls go out, higher averages. So Ryan may just get the Coors effect. We don't want to forget him there. I'm hearing some talk. I'm not pushing up. We have CJ Cron, who guys want to talk about for sleeper 30 bombs. Just casually stumbles into it, playing first base for the Rockies. 31 years old, 6'4". We all know who CJ Cron is, but he'll be kind of forced into a good situation if he can stay healthy. And then my guy who I mentioned on speed day, 26-year-old Garrett Hampson, 5'11", 50 future value player, was supposed to have a 55 hit with 70 speed. We know that speed tool is elite. He just needs his chance to play. I think what we saw from Garrett is he was overwhelmed when he came up. He's a little bit of a smaller player, so he got up to the bigs. It's called the bigs for a reason. Might have had trouble handling the off speed, but he could have retooled the swing. He just has to get on base to unleash that furious amount of speed. Only Zips projecting him for 25 steals. Everybody looks like he's not going to get the ABs to get it done, but if he does get the ABs, he's a whole different kind of player from a speed perspective. Not going to forget a Garrett Hampson. I wanted to throw a CJ Cronworth of the San Diego Padres on your radar. 60 hit, 60 speed. How is he using it? We got him projected as a 10 and 10 guy. I just saw a lot of contact from Cronworth. The hard hit was 42% with a 10 launch angle. That's decent for occasional power. It's really the hit tool. Phenomenal collateral damage from Cronworth. I don't want him to get lost in your mix. 22% O swing, 91% Z contact, and only a 5.8 swinging strike. He's going to be all over the bases. He will be driving in runs wherever he slots in that lineup. I read this note in the preseason that he projects as Padres' everyday second baseman for the next half a decade. Somebody wrote that comment about him. So Cronworth isn't getting enough attention for being such a good contact hitter and accumulator with an okay launch angle. I'm not going to let you guys forget about him there. Speed day, 25-year-old Tommy Edmond of the St. Louis Cardinals, 5'10", 180. Only a 40 future value. Hit 55, speed 55. So this is just meh speed. He has stolen 27 bases in Double-A. That's a good sign. Took 11 home runs and 15 bases and 349 plate appearances in 2019. That's pretty good. So I think when Edmond takes 15 bases and 349 plate appearances, you can't project him to have 550 plate appearances and only give him 12 bases. He's looking like 20 bases and some pop. Let's see what the swing feels like. The launch angle was great in 2019 at 14%, and it disappeared pretty much to an 8 in 2020. Which one are we going to get from a Tommy Edmond? The O swing is 29, but here's where it's great. Z contact is a 90. Swinging strike of only 7.6. Tommy Edmond may be table setting for Goldschmidt and Arenado. He's going to get on, he's going to take that one base, and he's coming in for a run all season long. Rinse and repeat for a Tommy Edmond, 25 years old. Nice little player. Another teammate here. I mentioned him in the speed days, Tyler O'Neill and Harrison Bader. But these are the guys. This is who it happens to. A Tyler O'Neill. It wouldn't shock me. He's only 5'11", 210. I thought he was a little bigger than that. 55 game power, 70 raw power with 55 speed. But we know from the speed, from sprint speed on Baseball Savant, that his speed is probably more than 55. It's probably more like 60 or 65 with how fast he is. Projected to hit upwards of maybe 26 to 28 home runs with a little bit of bases. Just feels like one of those seasons when he could get it done. The launch angle is excellent. In his career, 22, 19, 15 for the launch angle, a hard hit of 39. So there's going to be home runs from Tyler O'Neill. If he can just hold on to the job and not get platooned, let's just check the plate discipline if he's going to be able to get it done here. The zone contact, am I looking at the right thing? Well, the swinging strike has been horrible in 18 and 19, 22, 20%. That's why you're getting demoted, Tyler. That's why you're losing at bats. But 14.8 will start to tolerate The zone contact is only a 77, so his hit tool is not great. It needs to improve, but it's worth just mentioning him. Dylan Carlson, who I've mentioned, another Cardinals. This is really where the prospect status is for the Cards. 6'2", 205, 60 future value. We've talked about it. 55 hit, 55 game power, 55 raw power. They expect a breakout from him this season, just from the pedigree. Double A, he went 21-18 for a 142 WRC plus. That got everybody all excited, and they wanted to call up the 6'2 prototype size Dylan Carlson, just to mention him. Here's another little heartbreaker. Let's not forget about him, Victor Robles. And I've seen some bad things from Victor. I don't know if you sort the barrel rates by lowest to highest, like the worst barrel, if he led that list. He's just been on some lists I don't want to see him on. But let's not forget who we thought he was. 23 years old, 6 feet tall, 190, okay. But a 65 future value prospect. Guys, he's only 23. He has to be given some time. They called it a 65 hit tool. 50 power, 50 raw power with 70 speed on 70 field with 70 throws. So a lot of that 65 future value is in his defense, which will keep him on the field. Offensively, maybe the future value is more 55 on just the offensive tools. But this is a guy in 2000. Did he really in 2019 do 17 home runs and 28 stolen bases? Am I reading the wrong thing? The exit velocity was terrible. He must swing and miss sometimes. They haven't projected to just do 17 and 24 again. That's a lot of power and speed from a Victor Robles who, it looks like from roster resource and from spring, the Washington Nationals want to lead off. Lead off with Victor Robles, Trey Turner, Schwarber, Bell. It could be the year that Robles kind of pays off. I know that the hard hit is nothing. The launch angle is good, so this can kind of show you the hard hit at only 22%, 23%, 22%. That was bad. But he could make up for it with a launch angle of 20, 16, 19. He knows how to strike the ball and loft the ball so that the ball goes out of the yard. That's what I'm saying from a Victor Robles. Plate discipline-wise, let me see what he's doing for me. Is it tolerable? The swinging strike, 10, 12, that's all going to play. The zone contacts in his career in the mid-80s. Yes, he took a step back last season. I think he fell off our radar as his zone contact dropped from a career 86 down to an 80. He was pressing. 34% O-swing is uncharacteristic. But he's only 23 years old. This guy could come out and prove to be a serious player for the Washington Nationals. Can't forget about him there. We're going to jump over to a teammate, Carter Kieboom. 6'2", 190, 55 future value because of a 55 hit, 55 game power, 60 raw power. Carter Kieboom has some pop. They haven't projected for no home runs for 10. That seems light for 500 plate appearances. He had a very, very bad average last season. The WRC pluses, we liked Carter Kieboom. And rookie ball, he did a 244 WRC plus. How's he striking it? Well, in 2019, the 43% hard hit on a 12 launch angle we liked. The hard hit disappeared on him. The plate discipline is very good. So the O swing, 29%, but a zone contact of a 90, swinging strike of only a 10. So I think Carter Kieboom is going to make enough contact, enough bat to ball to hold the job down. The power is being understated slightly. Let's not forget about Carter Kieboom if he locks up that job. And here I'm just going to go a little further. These guys aren't breaking camp necessarily, but a prospect, another run, don't walk, is a CJ Abrams for the San Diego Padres, 6'2", 185. A 70 future hit tool. What? With 55 game power, 55 raw power. So CJ is young. He's 20. I got to mention the splits here. This is a 60 future value player. Currently a 35 hit tool that's going to play up to a 70. Currently 30 game power that's going to play up to a 55. Currently 45 raw power, play up to a 55. And an 80 over 80 speed grade for a 6'2 CJ Abrams. 60 future value, absolute burner. I don't know if he's stashable because the Padres have a lot of players, but if they lose a Will Myers and a Tommy Pham to hamstrings and a CJ Abrams gets a call up, you have to be there. You have to be there early and often. He's played a little bit of rookie ball. That's it. That's all we've got on the profile. Has he done anything else? We don't know, but I've got to mention him because there's a prospect that's climbing. I know I'm going to do pitchers later, but I want to mention a Mackenzie Gore, who was mentioned in the comments, 22 years old, 6'2", 70 future value prospect, and it's not going that great for him this spring. We think that he might have blown an opportunity to start off in that Padres rotation right away. I don't know what's happening with Mackenzie Gore, but I'm cooling just a little bit. I like a Nate Pearson, 6'6", 245 for the Toronto Blue Jays, 24 years old, 60 future value on a 70 fastball with a 70 slider. Nate Pearson got rocked last season terribly. He's shown some strikeout upside. In the league, stuff is just stuff. If you come up and you have stuff, Tim Lincecum came up and had stuff, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't hit stuff. I don't know what Nate Pearson's going to have for his stuff this season, but it could be decent on an upstart Toronto Blue Jays team who I was going to mention, Trey Skubal. And just one last prospect here, Adley Rutschman, a catcher for the Baltimore Orioles. And from time to time, we like to talk about these catchers with offensive prowess that are going to come up and hit. It was Wieters, it was Gary Sanchez, Will Smith, but then they come up, Soto. They come up and they've got to worry about fielding and scouting reports and discipline, and the offense always tends to, Jansen at Toronto, a lot of disappointments there, but we're going to do it one more time with the Adley Rutschman for the Baltimore Orioles. If he gets called up or breaks camp, he's a 65 future value player, 55 hit, 55 game power, 60 raw power. We're waiting for him to come up. He has only touched a ball, but at some point, he will get the nod. These are my upside players for you just to tighten it up. The season is right around the corner. I had to get some players out there to you. Let me just make sure we touched on everything. I'll come back to tune up the closers, but just a little preview. Closer is a mess this season. It's an absolute mess. Teams don't know what closer they're going to use. We don't know who's healthy. There aren't a lot of guys we love. You can look at who's projected to get saves, just your good old Kimbrel or Chapman, and it's a murky area to go. So I always like to follow the trends, follow the injuries, grab the cheaper guys. When a guy goes down, who's next up? That's obvious. Paying just a little bit of money for closers. But if you are in some sort of 10 cat, let's not leave closers out of the conversation. I'm going to come back in, look at just closer stuff, but we had to get those players on your minds, on your radar. Bobby Witt Jr., guys. Bobby Witt Jr., the other Bobby Dalbec, and Andrew Vaughn. Looks like it's going to be happening a lot faster than we thought. Big shout out to all the subscribers. Welcome into the new subscribers. My subscribers are the best. Holla back.